No one.
What's up, Gator Nation? Welcome back into the Gators Online Show. Zach Albaverdi and Nick Del Torre back together again after a little break that I had, a little getaway. Appreciate Corey Bender for holding down the fort as I took some time away, Nick, before things ramped up here in Gainesville for the start of spring ball. It's March Madness. Baseball's in full swing. It's a beautiful time.
It's a busy time for sure. 3 sports going right now. Florida baseball off to a great start. Football, spring is in the air. You got 9 coaches. You should have 10. But we're getting pads today, Zach. You know, as we record this on Thursday, Florida will be in shells, putting some shoulder pads on. And basketball is up in Nashville, where I will be next week, as you have to hold down the fort on your own. Heading up to the Music City for my bachelor party.
And for all the Florida baseball fans that are tuning in right now, we are trying to make it work out so that I do not have to cover any baseball games.
Doing my best. I'm doing my best to make sure Zach's not there.
But nonetheless, we'll make sure that you guys are covered. And so that you guys will be covered this month, make sure you guys take advantage of our spring ball promo that we have going right now. It's a new special that we launched this week at Gators Online. You can get 4 months for just $10. So all of the spring ball action going on, all of the recruiting visits happening, the coaching news, and Billy filling out his staff, which is still about to happen. And then obviously everything that's happening with baseball and the great community that Nick's built over there. So if you haven't subscribed yet, now is definitely a time to do it, because Nick, there's a lot going down on that on those Sanders practice fields, and we've already seen 2 days of practices so far. But like you said, the pads come on today, and it gets real.
Today will be the first day I actually look at a little bit, because you still don't have your football pants and thigh pads and knee pads and stuff on, but today will be the first day that I'll, look at offensive and defensive line. Everyone, obviously, we've written the stories and we've talked about it. Florida's whole retooled offensive line. There's no point in watching them, the first 2 days. When the offensive linemen and defensive linemen aren't in pads, they're playing patty cake. When you get the pads on, the helmets are on, things start popping. So I think today and Saturday will be the first day where, I really start to migrate over to those big guys.
Yeah, and that is obviously where so much of the focus is, just because of how many pieces that they lost along that offensive line and all the new ones that have been added. You lose 4 of your 5 starters, basically, even though Austin Barber made 5 starts last season. He still wasn't a full-time starter. So, but hearing from Rob Sale this week sounds like he might be Florida's best offensive lineman right now, or one of their best. And, he's just done a really good job, I think, just in his development from where he was a year ago. And now you have him and Kingsley Eguakon that are really kind of anchoring that line. And after that, it's really a bunch of newcomers. Richie Leonard's been in the program. He obviously made a start last season for the first time. Actually, that was his second career start. So he's certainly a guy that's probably in line to earn a job. But after that, man, there is a lot of battles to be had and a lot of depth, I think, to be sorted out. But the good thing is that the numbers are there and the experience is there. And as we've talked about on the show before, the Gators lose 4 offensive linemen and don't have to just completely take a step back from a developmental standpoint, thanks to the transfer portal. They're able to get guys that got years of experience, some even as starters, and that's going to potentially allow them to not have much of a drop-off, maybe even improve or upgrade in some spots. And I think a lot of excitement for Micah Mazuka. But, again, this is now finally the time we're actually going to see some of these guys get to pushing folks around.
Yeah, the big thing for me is from listening to Rob Sale talk is that Micah – listen, I think he's going to play a different position than Osiris. We all talked about Osiris, him being Osiris's replacement, but Micah plays on the left side, Osiris is on the right side. But you're replacing 4 starters. So it doesn't matter where he is, he's going to be a starter. The biggest thing that I took away from Rob Sale was Sale saying some guys you need to tell them how to do something, show them how to do something, and then they need a practice or two to mess up, and then you go to the film room, and then you show them how they messed up, and then they might get it the next practice. You tell Micah, hey, you need to do this, and he goes, okay. And you're like, do you got it? Were you even listening? And then the next rep, you're like, yep, he got it. He just heard it and did it. So to me, that's just a veteran player. And you get that through reps and through experience. And also some guys just the game comes naturally to them. Mm-hmm. I think if you asked like Kyle Pitts, he probably would have told you the game didn't come naturally to me. Like he developed into the monster that he is for the Atlanta Falcons right now. Also, unless the Falcons draft a quarterback, we need to free Kyle Pitts, get him out of Atlanta. My goodness. But I digress. But that's something that is impressive to me, and something we had talked about on this show, Zach, was Richie Leonard. Do you make him earn? Do you make Kingsley earn his spot? Because Richie's played center. Do you put him there? It seems right now, no, that Florida's intent on keeping Kingsley Eggercon at center and having Richie and Micah on either side of him. And then another update that we got from Rob Sale was that you're going to keep Goodwin, Keontae Goodwin, and Damian George on the outside.
Yeah,
so I think Austin Barber has cemented left tackle. And now with those two, one of them will win the right tackle job, and then you kind of have a swing guy. So I expect you'll probably see Austin Barber playing some right tackle just to give the other guys chances to play left tackle. Like Austin's going to be your left tackle, but if he goes down, you need to have Keontae and Damian ready to swing over to left tackle, in a pinch.
Yep. And that's, honestly, that's what Austin had to do at times last season. And one more thing on Mazuka that we didn't just hear from Rob Sale, I think heard from a couple players, and maybe I think even Billy mentioned this. Micah Mazuka is one of the guys on the football team that you do not want to get caught in a dark alley with. And we heard several guys mention that. And as Rob Sale said, sometimes that dude just comes in the building pissed off and, walks right in and early in the morning, and he's already got that attitude. He's got that mean streak going. And I do think that is, for just, early comparisons here, and it's not, but that is something that he might bring that's a little bit different than Osiris. Like Osiris, anybody that met this guy, that heard him on our show, I mean, the guy's a big teddy bear. You know what I mean? I mean, he's a very soft-spoken, gentle individual until he straps up that helmet and he gets out there and goes between those lines. But I think Micah is just got a little bit more of a mean streak, got a little bit more of a mauler to him, and he's definitely going to bring that. I think you're losing not only him but Ethan White. I mean, so both of your guards have moved on. You needed somebody to step in that was going to be able to bring it like that, and it sounds like that's going to be no problem whatsoever with Micah.
Yeah, and it's a guy who, coming from the Big 12, coming from Baylor to Florida, we use the term a lot, and it probably gets overused, that chip on your shoulder.
Yeah.
Guys leaving the Big 12 or the Pac-12, Ricky Pearsall, they're coming here to prove a point. Like, hey, you didn't get an SEC offer, or you didn't go to an SEC school at a high school. Now that you're here, he's, like Osiris came, and you're trying to show, or Montrell Johnson came, you're trying to show, hey, y'all missed me before.
Yeah.
And now that I'm here, I'm going to show you what you've missed out on, and that you missed me when you were in high school. So an established player at Baylor, I think you're coming here with a chip on your shoulder, ready to prove something. And listen, even though it's a different position, big shoes to fill, because you've been put into this box of transfer offensive lineman, and hey, the last one was a consensus All-American.
Yeah.
So good luck.
Yeah, that's that is quite the precedence that Osiris set, and obviously that guy had a great showing at the combine. Anthony Richardson tore it up as well. We'll get into that, but I do want to address a few more things from spring ball. One interesting thing that I really took away from the first availability that we got this week with Kingsley Eguakon was in talking about kind of the locker setup. And we know that Billy Napier and his staff are very intentional about the way that they structure their locker room and who they sit guys next to, and they switch it up all the time. And or should I say, every year they switch it up once, and they're very intentional about how they sit guys together. They don't want to, just have guys sitting with their position groups or whatever. There's a culture that's trying to get established. And when Kingsley Eguakon told us that sitting next to him now in the locker room to his right and left are Graham Mertz and Terada Mitchell. And, hearing that, we had already, wrote some stuff from the offseason about where those guys were kind of standing in offseason workouts and some of the early impressions that they have made. But you look at the positions that they play and you look at the void that's obviously there with Anthony Richardson moving on, Ventrell Miller moving on. These two guys are likely going to be the quarterback of your offense and the quarterback of your defense. And then we learned from Antoine Powell that Mitchell already is the guy in practice that is making the calls. Coming over from Ohio State, former starter, team captain, he's literally stepping into Ventrell's shoes and at least taking on those responsibilities. So the fact that they sat Mitchell and Mertz right next to Kingsley Eguakon, who is clearly one of the leaders in the locker room, not just on offense, but in general. He's one of the few guys that's back. That to me says, hey, we need these guys to kind of be able to serve the role that Kingsley does, and we need him to rub off on these guys and them to kind of him to show them kind of what our way is and what our expectations are. And also, you want your quarterback to start building that relationship with his center, and I think that's another reason why Graham is right next to Kingsley.
And when you and I were talking about this on the phone, I said, those are your quarterbacks. Your quarterback, your quarterback of the offensive line, the one that's making the calls. And then, as we called Ventrell last year, the quarterback of the defense. He was, as our guy JD Paquel said, Ventrell Miller is Florida's Wi-Fi on defense. And when the Wi-Fi went out against USF, you could see how chaotic the defense got. So, again, a guy who didn't play a lot last year, but has a ton of game experience, and someone who Florida clearly and Derek Wingo's injured, coming back from an injury from multiple offseason surgeries.
Yeah.
And I think Derek Wingo will be in the mix, but right now, Taraja, how do we say that? Do we know?
Terada Mitchell? Taraja?
I think it's Taraja. Listen, I know Florida's listening to this. Rick, we need pronunciation guides. We need pronunciation guides. But I did look up Micah Mazuka, rhymes with bazooka, from the Baylor website. Easy. From the Baylor website, yeah. I think Zach and we'll look at this Gator defense. My questions again, and they were answered last year, I think. But my questions again are right up the middle. You got some help with like a guy like Cameron Jackson, Chris McClellan had a really good year. Des Watson, the weight's kind of gone up again. I don't want to harp on it too much because I think there's, just like he knows his weight better than anybody. Sure. Florida knows his weight, and obviously he's not trying to gain weight. So I think there's some stuff going on behind the scenes with him personally. So I don't want to harp on it too much, and you just got to get right if you're at that position. But I think you've got some guys there at defensive tackle, nose tackle. You're going to have brand new guys. You're replacing over 120 games played in Amari Burney and Ventrell Miller. And then same thing at safety. And we've already seen a player get moved from receiver to safety to try to fill in that room. But my big question mark is right up the middle with the defense. And when you talk about, to compare it to baseball, when you want a good defense, you need to be strong up the middle. You want a good second baseman, shortstop, catcher, and center fielder. So my questions for the football team are right up the middle. And how do those new guys, 2 new starters at linebacker, 2 new starters at safety, and then how does the inside defensive tackle, nose tackle shake out?
Yep. Jervon Dexter has moved on. Got under 5.0 on that 40 at what, Nick? 300 plus, 6'7" almost. I mean,
Cooking.
ridiculous the athleticism on that guy. I will say that Cam Jackson is another one I think that we've heard from players this week as coming in with that chip on his shoulder, like you talked about, Nick, and coming in with a point to prove from Memphis that he belongs at this level and can play in the SEC. And in doing that intel piece I did a couple weeks back, he was one of the guys that was identified to me as one of the new transfers that will be among the leaders in the locker room and one of those vocal guys on defense. So you have that. And then, we've talked about it already at length, but the quarterback competition now between Graham Mertz and Jack Miller, it's only in its infancy. We're very early on in this process, but I tell you what, man, people glow when they talk about Graham Mertz in this program. I mean, maybe that'll change if that guy goes out there and has like a 3-interception scrimmage the first time they go out there and practice that. But, I mean, right now, Rob Sale, his teammates, Billy, like they glow about this guy. And it is clear that he has improved that room already just from how he goes about his business and the fact that he knows what it is to prepare and act and conduct yourself like a full-time, multi-year starter. And as Rob said, that he is going to rub off on the entire room. And definitely what they needed.
What's up, Florida fans? Wanted to encourage all of you to go check out rogueshop.com if you have issues sleeping, chronic pain, and or anxiety and stress. Rogue Shop sells CBD, THC, edibles, smokables, and vapes, as well as handcrafted bath salts, soaps, candles, massage oils, pain creams, and topicals. Rogue Shop is a true small business, disabled, veteran-owned, Black-owned, woman-owned company. They have 5 employees and make all of their products with their own cannabis grown in their manufacturing facility. Visit rogueshop.com. That's ROGUESHOP.com.
Now, I want to pull back a little bit, and it's not because I hate Graham Mertz or I think he's terrible, but I see the narrative starting to be like Heismertz, hashtag Heismertz.
Hey, no one said that.
Hashtag yeah.
Well, the fans did.
Yes.
But nobody from the program is saying that.
No. But I'm talking to the fans here, Zach. This is a show for the fans.
Yes.
I'm seeing hashtag Heismertz. I'm seeing hashtag Murder Mertz. Let me go to 2020. Graham Mertz completed 61.1% of his passes. Fine. 2021, 59.5% of his passes. Fine, but worse. Last year, 57.3%. That's Anthony Richardson, who I love. And Florida fans, a lot of them hated last year for completing 57% of his passes. I just want to pump the brakes. Like, as glowingly as everyone talks about Graham Mertz, I don't think he's won the job yet. I also don't think he's Joe Burrow.
I think the
at
writing's
LSU
on the wall, though, Nick. The writing's on the wall.
I think they're writing currently on the wall.
They're sitting him next to Kingsley. You got the OC.
They're writing on the wall. They're not done writing, but also, like, let's just get expectations to where I think they should be. The under 60% completion percentage 2 years in a row at Wisconsin, not playing the kind of defenses you're going to play against Utah, LSU, Georgia. He's a fine quarterback. I don't see Joe Burrow 2019, but then again, no one knew what Joe Burrow was going to be when Brad Stewart was running back a pick 6 in the swamp. No one knew that Joe Burrow was going to be that. So listen, if Graham Mertz turns into that,
so you're ending this segment saying he could be a Joe Burrow.
No.
you just riled up the Heisman campaign.
No. I don't think that. I think he'll be a fine quarterback. I don't think he's an all SEC quarterback.
But Florida doesn't need him to be.
I'm seeing the responses from 3-second clips that I'm putting out of practice throws where no one's guarding anybody and
no
pads. And I I just want to listen. We want to sell and we want clicks, but I also want some mental health, and I don't want to be dealing with Nick. You said that he was going to be the first pick overall in the next draft. I'm like, listen, we got to have some perspective. He's a fine quarterback.
Anthony Richardson might be the first pick overall.
Yeah, so crazy because fans told me I was nuts when I told them, "Hey, Anthony's gone. You know that, right? Gone where? Where's he transferring to the NFL?"
Well, before we get to Anthony, a guy that the Gators got from the NFL is now full-time on the staff, and that is Russ Callaway, who has been promoted to tight ends coach, although that has not, as of Thursday afternoon, been officially announced by the Gators yet, but has been reported by On3 and Gators Online.
They better get to reporting it, or we better be right. If not, then as you'll see today at practice, Zach, there are major NCAA violations going on because Russ was an analyst, which means he can't lead practice or be coaching in the practice. And as you can see right there, very much so coaching.
Yeah, he's. I think that's obviously. This is something that I think Billy, honestly, man, is kind of becoming a little bit of a trend. And obviously you see this with other coaches too, but the opportunity that he's given guys that he's now hiring and working with a chance to move up, a chance to start, within his program at whatever kind of entry position and get opportunities to either get promoted, to get more responsibilities, or to get something like this where you actually get a really higher up raise. We saw obviously what happened with Corey Raymond and him putting more on his plate. We saw Austin Armstrong, a guy that started out as a graduate assistant with Billy, then comes on as a position coach. Now he's made him a defensive coordinator at 29 years old. We saw the belief that he had in Patrick Toney, kind of giving him coordinator responsibilities at such a young age. I mean, this is a guy who really believes in the coaches that he hires, and when they have opportunities, if they put in their time and they've earned the job, he doesn't hesitate to go hire a young guy. And I think now, to say all that, I'm not saying that to say that Russ is not at a point necessarily where he's earned this. I mean, you're talking about a dude that's coached in the NFL, that's been an offensive coordinator, worked at Alabama, worked at LSU. He is a younger guy, per se, but this is someone that's clearly going to be able to come in, and I think as a tight ends coach and with his background, I think he's certainly going to be able to recruit. And you already heard some of the reaction on social media, or saw, should I say, from players on the team and some of the guys who know this coach. They like to hire. So I think it was important for Billy to make it because now you've got Austin in place, and now you've got your tight ends coach, and you're really down just one assistant. But with David coaching the receivers, he's been working with that group for over a year now.
Yeah, and kind of like Armstrong, Austin Armstrong, with being the defensive coordinator coming in late, he's someone who was a graduate assistant, graduate coach under Patrick Toney and Billy Napier at University of Louisiana, or at UL. So the language, the verbiage is there. Russ, the language, the verbiage is there, even though he was a defensive analyst. And I think it's very good and healthy. I've talked to several coaches about this. I think I don't remember if it was Jeff Collins or might even been Will Muschamp saying, "I wish that somebody had made me coach offense." You just become a better, more well-rounded coach, as a defensive analyst. You're watching defensive stuff, even if you're a former quarterback.
Yeah, well, remember Garrick McGee, before he became Florida's quarterback coach, was a defensive analyst on Mullen's staff because he'd been an offensive assistant his whole career, and they wanted that expertise in that role. And
a lot of those, it's like Russ was a defensive analyst, and a lot of what they will do is watch offensive film and then help explain, this is what the offense is trying to do. Well, you're a defensive line analyst. Hey, this is the scheme that this offensive line is doing, and this is what they're trying to get out of this play. And it's just a a different perspective than just the defensive line coach yelling at you that, hey, your hand placement sucked. It gets a little more technical, but I think Russ is a good coach. Certainly has a great track record. You got a Nick Saban stamp of approval. You got a Kirby Smart stamp of approval, and you had an NFL stamp of approval as well. So, and tight tight end coach is a position where I don't think you're not. It's tough because you obviously want to be a good on-field coach, but I think you're going to make your money as a tight end coach recruiting. I don't think Tim Brewster made Antonio Gates a significantly better tight end. I don't think he made Nick O'Leary a significantly better tight end. But Tim Brewster went and got Dalvin Cook to come to Florida State. And Tim Brewster went and got a slew of guys to come to play, whether it was his position or not. So I think Russ is going to have to show us a lot. What kind of relationships is he forming on the recruiting trail, and who can he get to come and make the team better, whether it's his position room or a different position room?
Yeah, and also helps too that he's a guy that's obviously been on the staff, been here the past year, so that's kind of a seamless transition. And then obviously Austin's coming in as a new guy, as a DC, but has worked with Tony, worked with Patrick, basically speaking the same language as you mentioned, Nick. So not ideal to be having these coaching transitions right before spring ball. But the fact that you're going to make things as normal and familiar for the players as you possibly can, I think that's going to be beneficial. And again, you've got David working with the wide receivers, who's been there this whole time with Kerry. So that's given those guys a familiar face every time that they show up to practice. But we still got to find out who the wide receivers coach is going to be, Nick. And obviously, the guy that's coaching right now could have a chance to potentially get promoted, but there's so many candidates out there. There's so much potential hires that Billy could make that it looks like, it appears at least, that he's certainly going to take his time and make the hire that he feels is the best.
Yeah. And listen, at this point, you're not going to just make, and I think I'd said it before on the pod, but or on the show, but you're not going to make a hire just to make it and then have to make a fire and a change, on April 15th, on the Saturday after your game. David Doker?
Yep.
David Doker has led the first two practices. He'll lead the third today. Florida, and it's not for, a lack of trying. They're not being complacent. We reported 2 weeks ago now, or a week ago now, that Florida had interviewed over Zoom, had interviewed 7 candidates. Then they brought in several of those candidates to practice, who were there on campus for in-person interviews and to watch practice.
Nick saw him.
I seen them. Billy's just being cautious, and I think he wants to, or not cautious, just being diligent in a background check and seeing if you fit in with the coaches. Hey, you watched the practice. What are your thoughts on this? How would you have done this? What do you think about the way we run things? And you're trying to find a right fit. To me now, sitting here on March 9th, as the Gators are getting ready for the third practice, it's clear that you're not in a rush. And I thought they would have a hire this week. I'm not so sure if they will right now. And this is a situation which is keeping us up and on the phones. And from a writer standpoint, would just love for them to make a hire and save me and you some phone calls on a weekly basis.
Yeah, and again, there's the potential, like we mentioned, for David Doker. I wouldn't put it past Billy to give him this opportunity, especially if he earns it in the spring. But this is a guy that was a wide receiver at Louisiana. He spent 3 seasons on Billy's staff. Started out as a quality control coach, working with the receivers, his former position. So, now he's come over and spent time as a wide receivers graduate assistant. Was actually recently named to the 30 under 30 list for the class of 23 by our coaching network in February 2023. So If you remember, Kerry Colbert, right before he left, Nick, kind of shared that news about David and kind of gave him a stamp saying this guy's a star, a rising star. So, again, would not, put it past him to potentially earn that job this spring if Billy doesn't find a candidate that he feels like would be more qualified or a better fit than David Wood. And then there's also the potential of maybe Eric Kaisaw, the former Auburn OC, who has been a wide receiver coach for several years throughout his career. Actually, has only recently coached quarterbacks at Boise State and Auburn, but for the majority of his career has been a wide receivers coach. So he's another option. But between David and Billy being a former wide receivers coach, and I think the system that they have in place, I don't think it is in any way whatsoever going to hurt the Gators at wide receiver this spring if they don't have a full-time position coach in place. Now, if you didn't have David, it would. Absolutely. So, kudos to him for stepping up, and I'm sure this is going to help him get a full-time job down the road if it's not at Florida.
He's on that hot 30 under 30 list.
That's what you want to be under.
That's over for us, Zach. We're on the we're looking at under 40 list now.
Well, obviously, Anthony Richardson is making a lot of lists around this time of year, and initially they were just first round projections, and then as we got closer and closer, they started becoming top 10 projections. And now that the NFL Combine has happened, Nick, man, I think Anthony Richardson might have had a shot of vitamin energy before he went out there and ran that 40-yard dash.
Focus.
Because, man, his focus that he showed up there in Indy with, that performance that he put on, a record-setting showing by the Florida quarterback, and now they're talking top 5. I even saw Bleacher Report mocked him as the number 1 pick for the 2023 draft, projecting Indianapolis to trade up for him. So we knew it. We said on this show weeks ago, 440. And if you were really listening closely, you listeners out there, if you were really paying attention, you heard me say 45 vert. You heard it first on this show that man was going to go out there and jump a 45. And he did it. And, it was interesting, too. I heard some people try to not necessarily discredit, but try not to make too much of the performance or, because that's not everything that's going to go into playing the position. And while that's true, like that is literally the best combine performance a quarterback has ever put on. And it is worth making a big deal about because that's how much of a physical specimen is. And the reason why he's got a chance to go top 5, top 10, despite only being a starter for 1 year in an inconsistent season.
Yeah, he would be, I forget his name. The guy from North Carolina that went to Chicago, Trubisky, would have the fewest starts of a number 1 overall pick if he does go number 1 overall since Mitch Trubisky. Hopefully, he would be better than that. But it'll be interesting because Anthony's ceiling potential is so crazy. Like he's faster than Cam, probably a more accurate passer than Cam was at the time. I know fans probably don't want to hear that or will try to disagree with that, but I think that's true. And I think what happened was you weren't surprised. I wasn't surprised. Nobody around Anthony was surprised, but it's different. Like none of the numbers were unexpected. So really what it was is now you have 32 NFL teams who are seeing it in person. Okay, that matches the film. That 80-yard touchdown run against Utah. Yep, I saw that. And what your broad jump and your vert jump is just shows your explosion. So they do that before the 40. And once you ran 45 or once you jumped 45, I was like, yeah, 4.4 is coming. Like that just shows your explosion and the power that you have. before we get out of this segment, we wanted to talk about vitamin energy. Zach, I drink it almost every day. I think you need another shipment though.
Yeah, man, my boys have they found my stash while I was gone on vacation, and now I literally only have 2 boxes left in the house. And listen, when they first started partnering with us, Nick, I mean, they sent us how many boxes did we get? We probably got like 20 boxes.
I got a lot.
I mean,
of
like
boxes
at least over a dozen. We got 2 different boxes that had several cases in them. They have all been confiscated by teenage boys in my house.
I think some of mine have made their way to North Florida Hospital. I think the fiance has taken some. But listen, if you're working a job like that, you know, at a hospital or you're on your feet, one of these tiny little shots gives you 7+ hours of energy. They're naturally caffeinated. There's no weird chemicals and things in there. It's a green tea extract, gluten-free, vegan, kosher. And the thing that I really liked about them, Zach, is that I don't get that crash. You know, when I would have a Red Bull, you know, one of those sugar-free or sugar Red Bulls back in the day. Once that sugar rush wears off, you're ready to hit the couch and take a little nap. So for me, being able to take one of these, you know, throw it in my bag and drink it in 2-3 sips on the way to practice, just keeps me going, keeps me focused as I'm doing 2 sports and as you're doing 2 sports.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not a coffee drinker, so I never drink coffee. So a lot of times when I got to burn the midnight oil and stay up late writing a story, I really, you know, the only remedy I've ever had is drinking caffeine. So to be able to pop open one of these the night before I left on my cruise, and I knew I had to get all my work done before I left, that came very much in handy, Nick, because I was probably up to about 1 o'clock in the morning and was able to get the work done thanks to the focus. So, like I said, it looked like Richardson had a good shot himself because, man, he was fired out of a can. The dude didn't even run straight on his 40.
I told him that. I literally texted him Saturday night a video of it was like a head-on version, and he gets out the gates and immediately goes right. And then veers all the way left. I was like, bro, you would have ran a 4.2 if you were just run straight.
Yeah, I know.
And he hit me back. He goes, if my eyes were open, I might have run straight. Yeah, he's just running, squinting. But he's actually been back. Zach, we ran into him on the last practice. He's back in town, hanging with Vernell, watching the Gators. And obviously, I don't know what he'll do for his pro day.
He's not going to run. He's already said he's not running.
Don't need to improve on much and shoot. I mean, maybe you bench press. You're going to throw passes, but I don't know that you're going to. Hey, I'm going to sit on that 45-inch vert. I'm good. Chilling on that.
I mean, as he said, I think I heard him on the Rich Eisen show. He's literally run the last 40-yard dash of his life. That's it.
It's got to be a good feeling. Never going to be asked to do it again.
And officially a 4.43, 4th fastest 40-yard dash ever by a quarterback. Only Michael Vick, Reggie McNeil, and Robert Griffin III ran faster 40 times. However,
none of them were the size of a semi-truck.
Richardson weighs 34, 46, and 21 pounds more, respectively, than those 3 individuals. But if really what really showed you how ridiculous, and I didn't even know that this was a thing, the RAS, the relative athletic score that they do from the combine.
Perfect 10.
Perfect 10. And I mean, he's the only prospect in the history of the combine that has scored a perfect 10. The only guy that had even gotten close to that was Cam Newton at the quarterback position, 9.99 in 2011. So Richardson, the only quarterback to get a perfect 10. And I even saw another graphic that was made based off this RAS score that just him in general as an athlete was like, I think was top 10 in terms of the measurables and like where he would have ranked relative to all the other guys at other positions. It's just incredible. I mean, for as long as I can remember, especially being in Gainesville, covering him in high school, and then certainly Nick, our time here, chronicling his career at UF, we've always known that he was a freak. We've seen it, we've heard it, but to actually see it measured and to have a number on some of those things, it was just cool to see.
It's in black and white now.
Yeah.
It's not Zach's opinion or Nick's opinion, and Nick just likes Anthony and he wrote a nice story and he needs him to be good so that the story isn't wrong. It's like, no, man, it's he put it out there for you. The numbers are in black and white. And I hadn't even thought about it that way. Him telling Anthony or Rich Eisen, never run the 40 again. Done.
Never.
Never being judged on that again. 4.43. We'll stand on that.
Like, I don't need a second attempt. I'm good. But like you said, to your point, Nick, like dude probably would have went out there and could have done a 4.3 on a straight line. But obviously he's not the only Gator that went to Indy and put on a show. A lot of guys made the trip, worked out for NFL teams and scouts and coaches. And I think a lot of guys obviously coming out of this process are going to hear their names called in April. Obviously Richardson's going to be the first off the board, but Osiris Torrance has probably solidified himself as a first-round pick. You've got other guys that are going to hear their names called. It's unfortunate that Ventrell Miller didn't get to work out, but he was still in Indy, going through interviews and stuff. Richard Garage actually was injured during the combine process, not during the workout, but like the physical, or I forget what
they called it a pain tolerance test and
test.
And then Ian Rappaport kind of backtracked on that. And I'll say this, Ian Rappaport works for NFL.com, which is the NFL. And I don't think the NFL liked the terminology pain tolerance test, because what's a pain tolerance test? Hey, Zach, give me your ankle. I'm just going to twist it, and you tell me when to stop. And judging on what angle I'm at, when you tell me to stop, we'll tell you how tough you are. Like, what is a pain tolerance test?
I don't know, but obviously Richard got hurt.
Hey, he's tough. He's tough.
So
Rappaport kind of backtracked it and said that he came to the combine with an injury and part of the physical just aggravated it. That could have been something that happened, while playing and practicing in Mobile.
Or the Reese's Bowl or something like that.
For the Senior Bowl. So I don't think it's, that scenario that I just asked you where a medical professional is just twisting your ankle until you say uncle. I don't think that's what it was. But listen, Richard will have a chance to get fully healed before the end of the month and have a chance to do pro day and go through all of that.
Trading most best bench press by a defensive back. That was the positive. I think he and Torrance didn't really have great 40 times. So that's, that was.
I saw a tweet that and it's mean. It's a mean tweet, but it was, if you add.
You sure you want to repeat it?
It's fun. It's not. It wasn't my tweet. I'm just repeating it here. If you add Torrance's and Dean's 40 times, it equals 9.25, which is what they'll be working if they run that slow.
Yeah, that's a mean tweet.
That's a mean tweet.
I would not have repeated that.
No, I think it's funny. But listen, Trey Dean tweeted out that he's had hip injuries. He's tweeted out that he is dealing with, some hip injuries and that he'll have another opportunity. That's what's great about having a pro day is it gives you a soft cushion. It gives you, if you're walking a tightrope over the Grand Canyon, your pro day is a nice net in case you fall. So Trey will have to run again. Rashad Torrance will have to run again.
Anthony Richardson will not.
No, Anthony Richardson will be wearing some Crocs, I bet.
I don't think Dexter will run at pro day.
Dexter sits on his. And the other thing, too, is that I think Rashad Torrance, and I thought he would be more of a workout warrior kind of guy, super physically impressive. I was surprised that he left, that he declared for the draft. And his combine did not help him at all. So now you have, even though the pro day is a safety net, well, not anymore. Now that safety net has turned into that tightrope without a net, because now you have so much riding on your pro day if you're Rashad Torrance. Because like you're a late round pick right now. Like you probably, if you have a bad pro day, you probably should have just come back to school, because if you have the tape that you have, which is fine, it's okay. You led the team in tackles last year. But if you have another slow 40 and don't absolutely crush your pro day, you might have made a bad business decision.
Yeah, and another guy that will be counting on that pro day as well is Amari Burney. He did not get to work out in Indy. Justin Shorter did. So he's a guy that was there working out. Brenton Cox.
And I think showing up and being officially 6'5", and running that 4.5 range, I think that's really going to help Justin Shorter. Sure. Osiris Torrance, like, listen, nobody was expecting the combine to help him. What he did in Mobile and his 4 years of film is what makes him a first rounder. There's not a lot of offensive linemen that come out of, the underwear Olympics in Indianapolis, and teams are like, you know what? Really changed my mind. He ran that 5.5 40 and really changed my mind. So I think it's already kind of, set and established where Osiris was, but these skill positions, you've got to have good combines and good pro days. So I think Justin Shorter will probably sit on his 40. But he'll probably be getting with Anthony Richardson, like, hey man, we need to figure out these routes, what's in the route tree for us, and I need to make sure I can show them that we're running crisp routes and that we're on time and that I'm catching passes.
Gut feeling, does Florida's pro day include Brenton Cox Jr.?
Yeah, I think it will. I think Florida did not include him in their graphic for the East-West Shrine game, and I thought, okay. It's not great. I think even if we're taking out that, I think Billy Napier is a good guy who wants to give people chances and gave Brenton a number of chances. I think even if you take that out and just, look at it coldly, it's a bad PR move for Florida to not allow Brenton Cox to come back for pro day, because he's going to need to work out for teams at a pro day, and Kirby Smart certainly isn't inviting him back to Athens for their pro day. So I think it would be a PR nightmare for Florida not to invite him. But knowing, getting back into knowing everything I know, yeah, Florida will invite him. You're not going to, blackball Brenton Cox because you had to get him away from your football team.
Yeah. And you needed to get him away in season. Season's over. He's going to show up for one day and he's gone.
Mm-hmm. And it's an opportunity where you would be denying him the chance to work out and denying him the chance to better his life in the future, which is what you were trying to do for him, even though he got in the way of himself, got in his own way, and there were consequences you had to put in place for the season. To deny him now the chance to better himself, I think would fly in the face of everything Billy Napier says that he stands for. And if they said, no, Brenton Cox, you can't come, I'd probably have to ask Billy, like, hey, do you mean the things that you say? Because we're buying them. We believe that you want to make these young men better people. And he failed in that aspect, but you're not giving him a chance to rectify that or a chance to continue on with that.
Plus, too, that's just a nice way to just let bygones be bygones. And, fortunately for Brenton, if he goes on to have a successful NFL career and now he can come back to campus and he's, attends games again, and that's another representative that you have of your orange and blue brand at the next level. And there's, that bridge has not been burned. So,
and not to mention, it is a recruiting tool to say how many guys you got drafted. Brenton Cox will be drafted. That's just another number.
Listen, if I'm Ford, I'm claiming Jacob Copeland too. Man, ran out there ran a 4.4.
Shoot, Giorgio probably claimed Brenton too.
Yeah,
you're gonna have a bunch of these schools start claiming people. Like, I bet you UL claims Osiris.
That is interesting.
And you might have more. UL might have more of a claim to Osiris than Florida does. Even though you're a consensus All-American, it's 3 years versus 1.
Does Florida claim Mahmoud Diabate or one of those?
Florida claims Jeff Driscoll. He didn't finish here.
Man, I tell you what, they claimed that series win over Miami, didn't they, Nick?
Yeah, buddy. That was I love this series. Florida, Miami, no love lost. First inning, Yoandi Yo-Yo Morales, who is going to be a top 3-round pick, great third baseman, ton of power. He hits a home run. My buddy Jacob Rudner said, hey, he's going to hit a home run here. He was right. And I said, listen, if you're right, don't watch the ball. Watch him. This kid plays with a lot of flair. He turned around and he tomahawked his bat towards his dugout. And I was like, oh, buddy, we are on. We have 3 more games to go. This is the top of the first, and you have already made everyone in the stadium and the other team irrevocably mad. So from there on, it was chippy. We're yelling at each other back and forth. They're talking. Bats are being flipped. Pitchers are screaming after strikeouts. Friday night, there were 8,000, I think. 8,061 people. It was the second largest crowd in Condren Family Ballpark history. Brandon Sproat was fantastic. Florida comes away with that 10-4 win. Saturday, I think Sully gets went a little too long with Hurston Waldrop. Hurston Waldrop dominated Miami, 14 strikeouts through 6 innings. They bring him back out there in the 7th. I didn't think he was really sharp in the 6th, and Florida's bullpen hadn't been sharp at all. So you try to steal 2 outs with your starter who'd been dominating. Instead, he lets the first 2 guys get on. Now your bullpen, who hasn't been great, is forced into an inning with base runners on. And as you can see from the score, things got out of hand in the 7th. You come back on Sunday with an opportunity, a rubber match. The winner take all, winner takes the series. Florida comes out, 4 runs in the first, 4 runs in the second.
Grand slam.
8-0 lead. Jack Caglione is just cruising. He's pitching well. He's been fantastic this year. I got a stat for us after this, but Florida goes on to just dominate that game. They win 14-4. Ty Evans, they had a 10-run rule agreed to. Ty Evans hits a ball which ends the game. I gave it a 9.8 on the bat flip grade, Zach. I get a lot of baseball players that are angry with me because they think that my bat flip grade is a little too hard.
It should be. It should be.
It should be. It should be. And there will never be a 10. There will never be a 10. So 9.8 is an impeccable score. And it took all things encompassed. So Ty hits the ball, immediately starts walking, looking at his dugout respectfully. Cheer, don't taunt. The bat flip, 7 rotations into the air. Jumps up. He is losing his absolute mind, rounding the bases. Rounding third, blows a kiss to the Canes dugout and to the Miami fans who were sitting ahead of the dugout. As he crosses home, throws up a U and smashes it over his knee. So my 9.8 was all things encompassed. Ty Evans lost his mind. Rounding the bases. But it was an emphatic way to end the first top 25 ranked series at Condren Ballpark. And SEC play coming. So that was the first top 25, but that won't be the last. Florida was able to handle business in the midweek, took both games over FAU, an FAU team that had beaten Miami the previous week. A really, really good lineup. And Zach, I got a blast from the past for you.
Uh-oh.
There was a DeBose in center field.
Oh, I saw that.
DeBose. Turns out that it's Andre DeBose's younger cousin. Andre was actually named after the baseball player's father. So we had another DeBose, a member of the DeBose clan in Gainesville.
I love the jokes on Twitter that said that was Andre DeBose's
Brother,
grandson.
oh my God, Dr. Farmer, you were wrong for that. Wrong for that.
That was so good. You know what else was so good was Josh Rivera.
Yeah.
The catch, the homer, but the best
is you
in the dugout.
You had a couple of those, and I loved just the intensity. It's always an intense series, especially for our only two-time recurring guest, Jeff Cardozo. That is his least favorite school in the country. So Jeff certainly enjoyed it, and it was just I like seeing that because I think that draws more fans in, and we talk, us in baseball circles talk about growing the game. I think younger fans are attracted to that kind of celebration, and I'm fine with it. So it was a fun series. Wrapping baseball up a little bit. Florida plays Siena this weekend. Hopefully they agree to a 10-run rule. I think there's a potential that if they do, it could be enacted in all 3 games.
Listen, Nick, 2 of the last 3 games, they've ended in 8 innings for you. I mean, you are just...
Well, one of those games took 3 hours to play.
That is true.
So, we played the first game against Miami was 2 hours and 16 minutes.
Doesn't get any better than that. That's softball numbers there.
Love that. Love a good 2 hour and 16-minute game. So Florida gets 3 against Siena this week. They get the UNF Ospreys. My buddy, who I played high school baseball with, played baseball at UNF. The alumni game, he said that they were victorious. The alumni beat the current roster. I haven't watched a lot of UNF, but that does not speak highly of the Ospreys that are coming in. So you're looking at a potential 5-0 week this week, and then you get UNF, and then we're hopping right into SEC play. Alabama, I think Ole Miss is the second week. That'll be a road game, and then you got Florida State, a three-pack with Florida State coming in after that Alabama. Look at that! I knew the schedule. Beautiful.
It's almost like you've looked at it before.
Many a time. Many a time.
Well, as we wrap this up, I want to give a shout out to Colin Castleton and Riley Kugel for earning all SEC honors and several accolades this week. USA Today named Colin All SEC or SEC Defensive Player of the Year. He got first team All SEC, and then Riley Kugel, Freshman of the Week, after his performances against Georgia and LSU, and named to the All SEC freshman team. And look, this obviously was not the year that Florida wanted in terms of the results, and certainly in terms of Castleton's finish. But I think for him, being able to come back, personally, and after missing, he missed 6 games in both seasons. But what was different about this year versus last year, he missed 6 games like right in the middle, early on in SEC play, and it hurt, the reputation that he was able to build nationally, or at least just in league, so that he could earn some of these postseason accolades. As he said this week, he felt like he was first team All SEC last year. He just didn't get to play it enough and prove it. Whereas this year, the injury came later. He had already had some dominant performances against Oscar and some of the other bigs in this league that he showed that he was deserving of that spot. So it's unfortunate for him, man. You think about the career that he's had, where every single season the last 3 years, he's left wondering what could have been, because 20 you lose Keontae Johnson. Last season he gets hurt, and then this season he gets hurt. So, I think that team with Keontae probably really could have been good. But I definitely think certainly last year and this season, the Gators could have made the big dance both years had he never been injured. So, but he gets to at least go out with these accolades. He gets to go out with his name in the record books, and kudos to him for the career that he had, because he was definitely one of the bright spots here the last couple of years.
Yeah, the only way Florida is going dancing in March is if they get that AQ bid. Would need a spectacular weekend in Nashville, which I will be having a spectacular weekend in Nashville this time next week.
Yeah, that's I tell you what, if Florida was in a little bit better standing with hoops, I probably would be doing this show from Nashville right now. So, but look, Riley Kugel as well. The honors that he got. He's really just been on an absolute tear. Prior to the SEC tournament, 8 games in a row that he'd scored in double figures in SEC play. That's the best stretch that we've seen from a Florida freshman since Bradley Beal. So, and the last time that happened, Beal just went off at the end of the year and boosted his draft stock to the point that he came out early as a one and done. Could that happen with Riley Kugel? I don't know if he's done enough necessarily, built enough of a resume to come out, but there are some folks that are mentioning him as a potential sleeper prospect for the draft, especially, as Nick said, if they can make a run here and he can have a few more games in March where he goes off. But, if you're looking for bright spots, if you're looking for signs of encouragement and something to look forward to in the future, look no further than Riley Kugel, because this is a guy that they got from Mississippi State who was signed. They get him to stay in state, sign with the Gators. They had to do a ton of, work with him in order to get him enrolled and in school academically. And then, it's been a process to, I think, get him up to speed. He missed so much of the offseason, and I think that's probably contributed to why it took him some time to go off. But ever since Colin Castleton's injury, especially, he's really taken on that role, being their go-to guy. And I think for Golden and his staff, that is something that you can hang your hat on. You didn't have the year that you wanted, you didn't have the record you wanted, but you can say, hey, we flipped this guy. We got him to stay in state. We turned him into an all-SEC freshman. Look at the stretch that we helped him kind of have here at the end of the season, and the development that he had under our watch. That's definitely going to help them, go out and attract more prospects.
They need to continue recruiting him and keep him away from the NBA. Now, I think he should go through the process.
Yeah.
You can go to the combine and you can get some feedback, but their best recruiting job, Zachary, might be getting Riley Kugel to come back for a sophomore season.
And he was asked, and I don't know where it came from or where this even got floated, but he actually was asked if he would even entertain the transfer portal, if that was something that he would, test the market. And he straight up said, that's a lie.
They're capping on my name, Zach.
Yeah, man. But I did ask him about the draft, and he declined to comment on that. And he's going to, as he should, focus on the season, not make any comments about that. But that's clearly going to be a decision, I think, that he has to at least weigh and, like you said, explore. But no doubt, for the future of this program and for next season especially, you want to get this guy back and allow him to kind of build on this momentum that he's created here. So that will do it for this week's episode. Thanks to Megan for producing. Thanks again to Corey for filling in for me last week. And happy to be back. Happy to be back on the grass. Have football going on. And Nick's been having a great time covering this baseball team. Make sure you guys are following along with his coverage. Make sure you guys are following along with all that Corey's got going on the recruiting front. These guys are going to be coming in week after week, practice after practice. So make sure that you guys take advantage of our spring ball special at Gators Online. For Nick Del Torre, I'm Zach Alberti.